Hello, TV land, or should I say internet land?
Drumbox land.
Drumebox land, wherever you are. Welcome to Modern Art Blitz. My name is Mat Gleason. I'm your host for an hour of blitzing modern art, talking to some interesting artists about what's going on in the creative process as we plow through 2016. My co-host,
Des. I'm not one of those modern feminists. You can
my co-host S, please send your hate mail to Lisa Derrick.
Hi.
How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing great, Matt.
Good to hear, good to hear.
Yeah.
In addition to the wonderful Lisa Derrick, we have an intern who sketches our guests as they reveal the secrets that make their art great and make them great artists. And that would be our intern, Aliza, to my left on the right of your screen, intern Aliza.
Who just had an art opening yesterday.
Had your first big art opening.
I know, she may not be.
You're taking over.
I know.
You're not going to be an intern for long. At this point, you're going to be selling art, getting ripped off by those bastard art gallery dealers. Oops, never mind. Okay,
Hopefully she'll still be our sketcher, even when she's, got a solo show at a major museum.
I could just see you and Larry Gagosian making a beautiful couple. She's making faces. I hope you're drawing faces as good as you're making faces.
I hope it's better.
We have two guests on the show tonight. Later, Clayton Campbell will be joining us, talking about some history of his art and some of his upcoming projects. But first, we have an artist.
An artist?
I can't think of a better way to describe this man as a man with the talent of three artists. Often juxtaposing some great imagery together to make interesting conflagrations. Jon Measures.
Thanks.
You're supposed to be applauding. I hope at home you're applauding.
With both hands.
I'm supposed to be ready to talk, aren't I?
Yes, you're supposed to be ready to talk.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jon, welcome to Modern Art Blitz.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
Well, good to have you. And so tell us now, I can tell with your accent that you are probably not
From the valley?
from the valley. Where are you from?
Mississippi.
Now, where are you from?
I'm from a little place called Nantwich in the northwest of England, just south of Manchester.
South of Manchester. Do they have a soccer team, or do you have to root for Manchester?
They do have a soccer team, yeah. Nantwich Town, yes.
Are they in the first division?
No.
They're in like the 8th division?
They're in like, I don't know, Northern Premier League, maybe something.
That's like bad. That's bad. That's like the minor leagues.
I don't know where they are,
You don't
yeah.
know?
What's the name of the soccer team?
I think it's just called Nantwich Town.
There's not like a mascot? Like all of you
but
guys
I
are
have
the
to
mascot?
say, I know very little about Nantwich Town Football Club.
Are you a football club supporter?
Manchester United.
Manchester United, the Red Devils.
The Red Devils, yeah.
Not City of Manchester now.
Oh, no. Not Man City.
Okay, so like the person that I know is from Manchester, who I don't know personally, is Morrissey. Now, is he popular in Nantwich?
Yeah, I think so. He's pretty popular. Maybe more popular in Mexico, I think. But
Yes, it's very true.
So did you have to grow up under the shadow of famous people from Manchester? Like, isn't Ozzy Osbourne from Manchester?
no, I don't think he is actually. No, I think he's from Birmingham.
He's from Birmingham.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there other famous people from
big,
Manchester area?
Well, there was the whole Manchester scene, wasn't there?
Yes.
What, you tell me.
But I wasn't living here. I wasn't living there then. I moved
really?
here. I moved here when I was 24, so I've lived here.
So that was 1960 what?
Yeah.
Oh, bad.
Yeah.
Late 1980s. I moved
Late
here.
19. You've been here since. Oh, so you, now.
So the Manchester scene was sort of a little bit after that.
Okay, so
like early 90s.
you've kind of rinsed off. Other than that accent, or is it all?
I've
out?
lost my accent completely.
No, you still got a little bit of. Now, do you ever go back?
I do. I'll go back quite a lot right now.
Do you have to go back to like if you don't eat
I
kidney
go back to
pie like
Nantwich.
every year? It's just you turn into a.
I'm vegetarian. So.
Oh, geez, I didn't even.
No kidney pie.
No kidney pie.
Kidney bean pie.
So let's talk about. Well, you're here because of your art, not because you're from Manchester. But
it's not very
But we could
interesting.
chat it up all day and all night. But we're looking at some of your art now. Is this a painting?
This is a painting. It's actually very slightly. It's got a few little digital bits on it. So the window of the house is digital, and the tree on the left-hand side. A lot of my work is really a mixture of kind of digital and painting. This one's almost completely a painting.
And
this one's quite recent. This is like maybe
This is your
3
newest work?
3 or 4 weeks ago.
And how big is this?
That one's 2 foot by 2 foot,
Oh,
so not huge.
and I'm looking at it now, and I'm seeing the home. There's a lot of psychology in using the home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what? I mean, is there a psychological thing going on here? What are you
Well,
aiming at?
the work itself, this set of work kind of grew out of a series that I did in 2006, which was where I was going around taking photographs of LA, and particularly like the east side of LA. I actually live in the area of the studio, so I live just up the road from here.
You live in Boyle Heights.
I live in Boyle Heights, and
Did you walk over?
I didn't.
No, you drove to Chinatown, and we Ubered over here.
But
You could have just walked down the street.
I should have just walked here, absolutely. I didn't realize that when I got here. I was like, I could have just walked here.
Are you bummed that they closed Carnitas Michoacan?
No,
You
doesn't bother me.
You never ate there?
No.
No. Okay. Well, so you're this is a house in East LA?
No, that one's just made up actually. It's an imaginary house. But the reason the work kind of grew out of that was I think it was me. I didn't think this at the time, but I think it was me exploring the area because I kind of felt a bit out of place. I'm
Very.
At the time, particularly.
Are you
it's
gentrifying this neighborhood
changing a
single-handedly?
little bit. I moved here 22
You've been in Boyle Heights over 20 years?
years ago.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've
So-
seen it change then?
But my wife grew up here, so my wife, although she hasn't lived here the whole time because she moved away, she's been here, 50 years or something.
Oh, okay. So she's a Boyle Heightsian.
She's a Boyle
Heightser?
Heightsian
Boyle
person.
Heights?
Yeah, something like that.
Boylesian?
Boylesian? Yeah, there you go.
Boylesian?
A boiler?
She's a boiler.
I have no idea. Something like that.
Let's continue with.
She's a lovely woman.
You brought a
Yes.
lot of art to see, and I'm trying to. Okay, and this is also. This looks like it's from the same
This
series.
is also from the same series. So these, I sent you a couple of paintings that were done very recently because Abel had asked me to send recent work.
Our director, Abel.
I
Alejandro.
should also explain. I think that this is kind of interesting. Is that I think that over the summer, and maybe a little bit before that, the work has been transitioning quite radically.
Really?
Yeah, and so the work that I'm actually working on right now, I'm not showing any of it until the next big show, which is at MOA.
MOA.
The Museum of Art and History in Lancaster.
You know, the director of MOA is going to be a guest next week. Wow.
Is she?
Yep.
And so this is, in a sense, these paintings are sort of the end of a series of work, really, which has gone on for about 10 years.
And it deal with architecture or like an emotional
Dealing with the
connection?
idea, yeah, it became more and more emotional over the. Initially, I think they were very much just like going around looking at what's out there, and then from doing the work, I started thinking about what the work was about and sort of exploring various themes to do with one's sense of place in the world and how you fit into the spaces and how the space connects to you and how it affects you emotionally.
You feel very much like an Angelino?
I certainly feel like it's home, yeah.
This is home. Are you rooting for the Dodgers?
I don't follow that though. I just follow Manchester United.
Rams moved back. We have our own we have our own
I should
football
go and
team.
see the Galaxy. Yeah.
And they wear. Oh, the Galaxy. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Now you should be.
I
think you
should
need
be
a
going to see the
You should be wearing a
Galaxy.
Galaxy jersey.
Yeah,
you know?
I should.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
Now, who's this guy that from England that was on the Galaxy? David Beckham.
Well, David Beckham was playing for the Galaxy for a while, yeah.
Yeah, he's like a big deal, right?
And now they have Steven Gerrard playing for.
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
First, I'm heard. See, as far as I'm concerned, you're a bigger star from. You're a bigger star than that.
Steven Gerrard played for Liverpool for like forever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, since the 1920s, I think. and now he's retired from that and he's playing
So
for the Galaxy.
The Galaxy is that the great.
It's like the way you go to pasture.
Great soccer stars don't die; they just go into the Galaxy. Is that
Yeah,
it?
something like that. Yeah.
So now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that you've got a lot of kind of like California light in this.
Yeah, very much so.
But
There's
you're
a
not,
big
I
influence.
mean, this is like, do you consider it landscape or is it more psychological?
It's a bit both. I think like over the last couple of years, it's become much more psychological. I did a series that you're aware of that was called the 50 by 50 by 50 by 50. I got to figure out if I got enough 50s there. It's
Right.
4 50s anyway. But it started off as like a silly little throwaway idea where I did 50 paintings in 50 days leading up to my 50th birthday.
Right.
Wow.
And then I did a show at what was Red Pipe Gallery. And then it became like this trilogy because I did that one, which was kind of like stopping and taking stock at the age of 50 of where I'm at. And then I did another series which was called The Wait List, because I sold all those, and then other people wanted them, so I did another 50 that was called The Wait List, which became sort of about looking to the future. And then I had a collector who originally I worked for when I very first came to LA, who bought another 50, which became the last 50, and that was all about the past. So the work has become a little bit about, it's become much more personal. It's become more about me trying to filter through the whole idea of getting older and the sort of emotions related to that and the passage of time. Because I think one of the interests in the city as a thing has been the way that cities kind of hold these scars of time, the way they get damaged and then patched up and then rebuilt by generations.
And there's also that interpersonal thing, like when you drive by an intersection where you like got yelled at. You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
God,
yeah.
I hate this intersection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I
way-
hate
So the
LA
last
that
50
way.
was actually going around. I actually went back to England and took photographs of all these places that I'd lived and stuff like that. So that was
So
really
you really
interesting.
went back.
Yeah, I really went
Okay.
back.
It wasn't just like
I wasn't able to get down to Cornwall when I was in college in Cornwall. So there was a
Como?
Cornwall.
Cornwall.
Falmouth in Cornwall. There was a period of my life, about 3 years, when I was down there, which I didn't get down to take photographs of that, but I think pretty much everywhere else. I was actually originally born in the Midlands, a place called actually I was born in a little village called Lilbourne, and then we moved to, when I was about 2, we moved to this place called Bilton, which is another little village by Rugby.
What's a village? What's the difference between
village
like
is
in
just
LA
like-
or in Southern California? You got cities, right? You got
Yeah.
Downey and Glendale, but you got villages.
A village is like a little collection of houses in the middle of the countryside,
And like
usually.
one high street with the shops.
Yeah, kind of like that. And,
And
they've
there's
got
like
like a
grass.
village green and
There's a lot of grass around there.
yeah.
Not
It's like
not
that.
smoking grass,
And
just like
livestock.
grass. And
Are
then
there
like, do
livestock?
sheep
And-
walk around?
Wheat and sheep, depending on where you are. Like
Wheat
in
and
Nantwich, there's lots of cows because it's a big dairy place.
Oh.
So lots of cows.
So they
very,
still-
very green, lots of trees.
So England's not one of these dairy-free countries.
No.
No.
It's very different from LA, and particularly the landscape when you get outside of LA and you get into the desert and stuff like that.
There's no desert.
There's
in,
no desert in
Europe.
England,
Europe
no.
is the only continent without a desert.
Is that
Yes,
a fact?
that's
I didn't
a
know that.
fact.
Antarctica.
It's a good fact.
That's a fact.
Antarctica,
Now-
Antarctica does not have a desert.
Antarctica is a desert.
It is a desert, yeah.
It is a desert. Look it up.
I'd never thought about that, but
Wow.
it is,
I
yeah.
always think
Yeah.
of deserts as being hot, but then
Yeah.
I've been to rainforests where it's freezing cold. So
Is there really such a thing as a rainforest? It's not just like
Yes.
it's not like a simulation
a
thing.
rainforest is
It's not like Doctor Who or something.
no, a rainforest. It's based on the amount of precipitation that
How much
falls
rain there
in
is.
a year.
So even if it's snow,
Right.
it-
so
it
the,
could be
the
a rainforest.
So Seattle's a rainforest,
There are rainforests just outside of Seattle. I've been in them.
there you go.
but there's no like endangered species except the
there are.
Sasquatch.
Yeah, there are.
There's like owls or something.
Owls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there's endangered
Spotted
owls.
owls.
Spotted owls. There you go.
So what is this?
That's
This was a
beautiful.
series I did that was a show at Fold Gallery downtown.
At Faux Gallery?
Fold,
Fold. F-O-L-D.
yeah.
I know that city.
It's
that-
in the last bookstore.
Yeah.
That's Century City.
Yes.
But the idea of the show was to try and mix the architectural structures with hard edge abstraction. So I got really into this idea of using tape. I came across this. I already had a problem because a lot of them have prints, digital prints that are stuck down onto wood panels, and then I had a hard time if I wanted to paint onto it and make a hard edge and tape onto it. It would rip the print, obviously. So I couldn't
no.
do that.
So this is not
But then,
tape.
and which afterwards seems like really obvious, I realized that I could just varnish, which I do in the end anyway. I could
Right.
varnish over the prints first, and then I could mask onto it.
So even using painter's tape, that blue tape would rip it?
It would rip the print, yeah.
And how archival is that?
It's archival. So the paper's archival, and then it also has a UV coating over the top of it.
Wow.
Which is like 98% UV protection, and it has 2 or 3 coats of UV coating on it.
So
It's
do
pretty
you
archival.
do you
Where do you
consider
get UV coating? This is something I'm curious
It's just actually like Liquitex acrylic varnish.
Okay.
Has a UV coat protection in it.
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
It
Are
states
you
on the back.
are you a formalist?
Am I a formalist?
Are you or are you not? Have you ever been a formalist?
Well, I'm certainly interested in form.
Do you know any formalists? Do you like commingle?
Do I
with
have
any
coffee
formalists?
with them?
Do you, You might want to plead the fifth.
I'm not sure, actually, to be honest.
You know?
Yeah, I'm going to plead the fifth.
Do you? Where do you put the role of content in your work, outside of the visual?
I'm more interested in the psychological and the emotional side of it than the formal aspects. But I think the formal aspects of the work are necessary to get to that, really. Yeah.
You want to make something beautiful, and then you believe that we can more easily dive into the content.
I do want to make something beautiful, but not necessarily in a conventional manner. So, I'm quite happy to have elements within paintings which are not necessarily beautiful if they aid the communication, I suppose.
Sometimes ugly is much more beautiful than
terrible,
beautiful.
Aren't they? Can I paint a picture of this?
So what are we looking at here? It looks like we're I'm looking for George Jetson to fly in here. Okay, but then when we disappear, it's got this whole other.
I got really fascinated actually through that 50 by 50 series. I got really fascinated with the idea of the horizon, because the horizon is like over the horizon is the future. And so it got sort of mixed up with that. And so I did a series, I got fascinated by that formal structure of having a dividing line in the middle. And then oftentimes it had elements that reflected, not necessarily the same thing, but sometimes it was a more natural element on the bottom, like mountains. And then sometimes it was buildings on the top. So this one's not quite like that, but it has a building on the top and there's sort of a reflection of a slightly different building underneath.
It's like a pyramid almost in the reflection.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but it is like a sort of perspectival drawing, I suppose.
It looks like a pyramid, man.
Yeah.
I thought it was the Luxor.
I hadn't thought of it like that at all.
So did I. I didn't even think of
Can
the
I see it without the
inverted pentagram.
couch? Is that possible?
Yeah, can we see?
See, doesn't it look like there's a pyramid there?
See?
See?
Yeah.
So it's not a reflection of
That's
the
funny, I
actual.
hadn't thought of it like a pyramid.
Yeah, it's like the Louvre, how it has
It does
the
look like
inverted
that, yeah.
pyramid going down below.
It does look a lot
Yeah.
like
And what year is this from?
that. This is from this year.
Oh, okay. So this is
Yeah.
all new work.
It's all new work, yeah.
And again, this is.
I think there's a couple of pieces that you have that are a little bit older, like maybe
Is this
last year
is there
or-
some digital imagery in this, or how?
Yeah, there's a little bit of digital image. So usually what I do is I do a painting, and then I photograph the painting, and then put the painting in the computer, and then work over the top of it, and then print out bits of it. So even the printouts sort of look like paintings.
The printout itself. So now, are you worried about? Obviously, you're not worried about the purity of painting, and when you're mixing digital elements. I mean, that's a whole psychological hurdle some artists can never get past. But are you worried about? The archivability of all these materials? Are you only making art for today, or you think this?
I think that they're pretty archival. I mean, whether they're going to last 600 years, I don't know.
I mean, I know Rembrandt didn't have to worry about that.
I'll leave that to the museum.
If it's worth it, then that's their problem.
They'll keep it, and if it's not worth it, then it will disappear, and it's fine.
Just chuck it. It's faded.
Yeah.
No, it's a Jon Measures. Okay.
Yeah, we need to fix it.
A cantilevered canyon house.
We're looking at it. I was going to call it a tree house.
You know, I got a job teaching at Pepperdine.
Wow.
And so I was like in that area by the coast.
Yes.
Quite a bit. And
Those
I got really interested in that for a while, like walking around. After I taught, I would just like walk down the coastline there in Malibu, and you have these like ridiculous modern houses.
Did they ever
like
arrest
$5
you?
million.
Did they ever arrest you for vagrancy?
About 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. Harassed by the man.
Yeah.
But
they're so interesting because they're so LA. This looks so LA, and they always scare me a little bit. I always think they're going to fall off.
Especially because in Malibu, that's not very sturdy.
No, and those houses always get like washed over when there's fires, and then they have floods and
earthquakes.
But they're all insured.
And they're all kind of dumpy.
Yeah, they're like a little bit dumpy, but like $5 million.
Like when you got $5 million for a house, you could have a dumpy house. Like, hey, I paid $5 million for this. Right?
Yeah. Because they always look like they're being constructed. They look like they're constantly just building another house, or they're like doing renovations on it. So there's always like building materials hanging out around the outside of those houses.
There's always some Home Depot stuff you can go pick up.
Yeah, exactly.
You walk by, you say, hey, I'm going to Home Depot. You want me to pick you up anything? Oh, good. I'm glad you're here. We've been waiting 3 years to get a ladder. Okay. So what did you teach at Pepperdine?
I taught computer art.
Computer art.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
so.
I think it was called Foundation Computer Art.
So are computers taking over art? Are you going to break the news?
No, I really don't think so.
No?
No, but I think they're like any tool, you know, they're just like a tool.
It's like a screwdriver.
But it's a complicated tool, you know, but they are really just another.
It's like a screwdriver that you can't find.
Well, it's like you can make art out of wood, or you can make it out of, you know,
Pixels.
plastic, or you can make it out of paint, or you can make it out of pixels.
But
yeah.
you found this way to actually use the computer as a tool and still make an object.
I think what happened was that I trained as a painter originally, and then for about 20 some odd years I worked as a graphic designer, so I was using computers every day. And so that was my toolkit, really. It was like the tools that I have at my disposal.
Well, you have that. You are actually fabricating a pictorial object, though, as opposed to a digital experience. Do you see art kind of? I mean, is there? I'm just looking at it as a conflict. You're looking at it as a solution.
Yeah, I don't see it as a conflict. I don't see them as being.
You don't think the digital realm, that cyberspace we enter to when we're on our phones? You know, I mean,
do I think that that's an issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a bit of an issue.
What's going to happen? What's your prediction?
What's my prediction for the future of the digital world?
Yeah.
I think
we're already addicted to it.
Well, I think to a large extent, people will eventually find ways around it. They'll find ways of incorporating it and find ways of like ignoring it, maybe.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Boy, you're an optimist. Whew, man.
I am quite
optimistic. I am not used to such optimism in these terrible times we live in.
Or from artists.
Huh?
Or from artists.
Well, I think the world's going to end.
Well, I'm not used to artists who are intelligent, so this is
No, that's all of our guests on Modern Art Blitz have been very intelligent, Matt, or they wouldn't be here.
I think that I'm an optimist in a sense, but I think that there's a good chance that the whole world will end, or humanity anyway, will end because of like global warming and stuff. So, but in the meantime, we'll get used to working with digital.
But wouldn't global warming be good for England because it's cold there,
oh yeah,
and you could
so
grow
much
more
better.
crops?
Oh, well,
or maybe Scotland.
People won't have to go to Spain on holiday either.
Nope.
People can just stay home in England.
And
it'll be warm enough.
we wouldn't have to worry about the archival properties of
But I don't think it's just global
use.
warming. They've changed the term now, haven't they, to
climate change. Just in
change.
case there's another ice age, they can.
Well,
still
because also it's going to get, you know, just radically different.
It's gonna get hotter
climate,
and colder.
Yeah. Storms and
All right.
sea change.
Well, I just know that I personally will never vote for a dolphin for president. I can't do it.
You can't do that.
So what are we looking at here? There seems to be some billboard
This
imagery.
one was the way that the paintings usually begin is very intuitively just putting paint down and seeing what evolves out of it. This one kind of reminded me of the coastline around LA. So if you like sort of look at a map, I haven't looked at a map since I did this painting to check if it's really like that, but in my head, anyway, it's sort of like that bit, you know, where
the coastline of Southern California goes
like
around, yeah,
around LA, and
there's
Long
always
Beach
that blue part.
So it's like looking at a map of LA, and then you've got that horizon line at the top again. With the billboard part, I've been over the summer. I spent a long time working on an album cover and CD cover and social media stuff for an album which is going to come out very soon, which is called Hey, by a band called Latimer House. And because it's called Hey, I used billboards for all the covers and the singles and stuff like that.
Because that billboard is literally shouting, "Hey,
hey,
so
buy something."
I keep noticing, and maybe it's because
So the billboard, I was taking lots of pictures of billboards.
My eyesight's a little wonky, but I noticed like grid patterns.
Yeah,
running
that
a
comes
lot
from
through-
maps. Like in 2013, I did a road trip across the United States and back as part of a show that I did at Space Gallery in Pomona. And when I was doing that road trip, as well as taking photographs of the landscape and the cities and stuff, I realized that a lot of my time was spent looking at a map, either in the car as I'm driving, or on my phone, or looking where I'm going to go next on my computer, and stuff like that. And so I think that this kind of goes back to what you were saying about the digital world, that part of our life these days is digital, part of it is physical. And so that idea of looking at a landscape is not just looking at the landscape, but we also look at the landscape from diagrams of it and maps and stuff like that. So that's kind of seeped into it as well.
And this is a 2x2 painting?
That one, I think that one's 30 inches by 30 inches, so it's 2.5.
2.5 by 2.5?
2.5.
You like the square?
I do like the square. I think, and this also goes back to that digital thing, I think it's an influence of Instagram.
Oh no.
I didn't really think about that at
album
first,
covers.
but I started posting stuff on Instagram and all the photographs ends up square. I think you can now have them rectangular, but at that time, they had
You
to
could
be
only
square.
do square.
You were
So
limited
you're
to
actually
square.
you're letting Instagram tell you what proportions
And
to
I
make your
hadn't
art.
realized that at first, but I think it's a little bit of an influence of Instagram, is that
Right.
I've started making paintings based off of that way of looking at the world, you know? I'm taking
But here's
lots of square pictures and
Okay, this is
But
our,
here's a
our
rectangular one.
last image, real quick, in one minute. Tell us what's going on here.
this is a painting which is called Hiding Out in the Hollywood Hills, where I met up with the bloke who had originally brought me over to the United States. This bloke called Tony Getter, who is the brother of Mr. Brainwash. And when I went up to his house, I thought it really looks like the kind of house you would buy if you wanted to hide out from the world, because you drive up through Laurel Canyon. I think it's Laurel Canyon, yeah, Laurel Canyon, and then you take off a turn on Lookout Mountain, and then you go up all these little windy roads, and you end up getting to like a road which is like a dirt road, and then at the end of the dirt road there's this gate which is like a locked gate that he has to open, and you can't see the house at that point either. You can only see the house once you've got past that gate and you get to the house, which is right on the very top.
Wow,
So
great hideout.
It's a great hideout, a really good hideout, yeah. And it's kind of, it's one of those houses a little bit like we were talking about earlier, where it's always kind of under construction, and but it's also quite glamorous in a way. And you've got this great view. That's the view from his house. Is
Wow.
that view of, so the painting is actually made up of a kind of collage. That's his lamp in his living room or his dining room, and then the blinds and stuff is just made up, and the roof line of the house at the bottom isn't really there, but I kind of made all that bit up.
Cool.
So it's kind of imaginary, but
Well,
based off of him.
I love the fact that you're coming. You are an Angelino, whether it's home to you, but you're actually you still have that perspective where you can show us things about the landscape that we interact with
I've lived
every
here
day.
longer than I lived in England.
Well,
Wow. Well, that makes you an Angelino.
I'm an Angelino.
So when you go to England, do you say things like "Hey, dude," just to like kind of rub it into them that you're not? Yeah, you don't.
No, not really.
Nah, you haven't got the.
I did one time go to a pub in Nantwich since I've lived here recently, the last few years, and did karaoke. And the bloke goes, "All right, up next is John, all the way from Los Angeles." All the way from Los Angeles
And what
to
song
sing.
did you sing?
I sang Elvis, Teddy Bear.
Ah, you gotta
do
love
wanna
it.
oh, no, we can't do that.
All right, John.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Thank you so much
Sure,
for being
it
on the
was a
show.
pleasure.
Thank
It was
you,
great
John.
to see you,
Oh,
and
wait,
of course
here's
your
the
wonderful
drawing,
art.
the
And we got
we got the drawing.
Oh,
we've
let me
got the Skechers seat has produced a portrait of Jon Measures.
Oh, I think you're a bit flattering, actually.
Yeah, made him look a little better. Thank you, intern Aliza with the sketch. Thanks again, John.
Thanks.
All right. Up next, we have
Another one of my favorite artists.
another one of Lisa's favorite artists.
I wrote about him.
You've written about him.
So this is a real thrill.
I've curated this man into art exhibits, and I like him and his art. He's a fixture in Southern California. Don't trip over the shoes when you walk on, by the way. He's a fixture in Southern California. He used to be, oh God, he used to run. He's run a few spaces in this town. He's run them into the ground. No. So
You didn't.
without further ado, a Los Angeles legend, Clayton Campbell.
You're bad, man. You're bad.
How you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to have you
Hey,
here.
Ben.
So nice to see you again.
Oh, you're kissing up to Aliza, so she does a good drawing of you.
Well,
That's
she's gonna do
smart
a
guy,
good
smart
job,
guy.
You know.
We're going to have
right.
Aliza draw you one day.
All right. So Clayton, I've been a fan of yours for many years, and
Ditto.
well,
Oh, really?
flattery. Ugh. So
All right. Well, forget it.
well,
You know.
now you have one thing about your art, and I've noticed this is I would call it photo based for lack of a better. I mean, you're obviously you're not an abstract expressionist. We can start there.
Narrative representational.
Narrative.
There
Okay,
we
and you're certainly using. I want to say technology, but
Yeah.
but you're certainly using that. So let's walk over to the series that you did. I know it was obviously last decade, correct? What we're looking at here.
Well, I switched this photo in because today is September 11th.
We are filming this show September 11th, 2016.
And this is important because I've been working on a project since 2005 called Words We've Learned Since 9/11.
Words we've learned since 9/11.
It's a public participatory portrait project in which it started by chance with my son. I took photos of him one day. He expressed he was having trouble sleeping, he was worried about his future, and I found out all his friends were. I was driving the carpool. They were all 10 years old. And, you know, they didn't have the skills to deal with all the bullshit they were hearing on CNN. And, you know, they were just couldn't deal with all of the stuff they were hearing. And I asked them to start writing down words they'd been hearing, new vocabulary. And they did. And it was extraordinary, the new words they were hearing.
Words that did not exist in popular consciousness.
It was all coming out of the military, out of popular culture.
Can we see this photo? The guy's holding up a sign with, and his just says why.
Why, and he's turned it upside down. And this is one of the really emblematic photos of this project, which numbers now 1,400 portraits.
Wow.
It's been to 10 countries. It's been to all over Europe, Asia. It's been to Kurdistan.
What are some of the words that keep appearing in this, that people write down?
Very few have repeated. The main one has been family.
Family?
Curiously.
Wow.
You'd think terrorism would keep coming up,
Yeah.
but it hasn't. What's happened with this project is that I'll put it up in either a museum or an art center or a community center, or in Kurdistan it was in a coffee shop.
Oh, well,
Wow.
There you go.
You know, hey, wherever people want it. And I'll do a workshop right there. I'll sit down and I'll talk to people and I'll ask them two questions. What new words have you learned since 9/11?
Okay.
And since is really the operative word now. Or what words did you know that have taken on a new meaning? And we'll have a conversation in private. And eventually we'll come around to some words or short phrase, but never a sentence or an opinion. And we'll write it down, and they'll stand up and I'll take their photo, just like they're at the DMV. It's real quick.
But is this kind of like a confession thing? Like,
No, it's not. Often it's like they're right there, they've got it. Sometimes it's quite painful what they get to. You know, it puts them on the spot and they have to really think. I have one little boy who, you know, he got down to a place where his uncle had just committed suicide. He got to the word suicide.
oh dear.
And for him, that word had taken on such a new meaning. It was,
At what point?
you know, and you go, whoa, okay. You know, you censor nothing in this. And, but most of the words are closer to the surface, and it's about people trying to get a handle on their future.
So speaking of the future, you finally had to finish this project, correct?
Well, it's not done. Like, it's ongoing. Next month, I'm working downtown with Jon Measures and Los Angeles Poverty Department. We're doing a collaboration, and we're working with his group of homeless people, and we're doing a whole project in Skid Row, doing workshops with that whole community, finding out what their words are.
Since 9/11.
Since 9/11.
Okay, so you've done other series, and I don't want to just stay on one series.
Yeah.
If we have other images here.
We do.
Do we have other images?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Lisa, you wrote beautifully about my work.
Thank
I
you
must
very
say.
much.
I mean,
This
you could
was-
talk about this.
Oh, gosh. I love how distracted your models are.
The ostriches or the woman?
The woman.
Oh.
And the thing I really appreciate is when I was a little girl, my dad would take me on his every other weekend divorced dad trips, often to the Natural History Museum here in LA. And the dioramas were my favorite. And just that you've put these.
And a lot of them are exactly the same.
They are. They're a little tattier and more worn. But now you've made human beings an endangered species in these dioramas because they're so self-absorbed.
Yeah.
And you can expand on that or use it as an allegory viewers, as you will, but it's just, and they're funny as fuck.
and they're digitally enhanced. You didn't have to have somebody standing in the Natural History Museum here, no?
No, they're all photo montaged.
And
in
you
fact,
took
that
these people randomly, didn't
well,
you?
yeah, no one knows they're being photographed. That woman, in fact, I remember, was on her cell phone on a street in New York, and I just stood there for 20 minutes shooting her over and over again. I mean, I could have walked up and stabbed her to death, and she wouldn't have noticed. I mean, she was just so. But that's the whole thing. People are so checked out on their social media that there's no authentic engagement going on, and these filters are in the way, and that's the whole point of this Wild Kingdom show, is that people are not, engaging, and they're just lost in the third person. But this was at Coagula.
Well, it was a
great
fun show to host, and people definitely laughed and sort of like did the whole. That's
and then
me.
They were taking pictures of themselves with
Oh,
them,
it was
which
great. People were doing selfies of themselves in front of them.
Selfies of themselves in front of a picture of a selfie, kind of ruining somebody's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the point of view of the viewer was to be almost like an anthropologist.
Exactly.
Looking at this, strange species, ourselves, in this display. And of course, the animals are all, keenly aware of the
Right.
Homo sapiens dropped into their midst with, their machinery.
You had predators going after them, and these people were completely oblivious.
Well, and in the next slide, or the next image,
Let's see it.
Oh,
Let's
this
see it.
one
Oh,
is
wow.
this
great.
one's great.
This is great.
I mean, I
Make
remember.
us go away so we can see. Thank you.
She's about to be, they're about to have her for dinner, and I remember photographing that young woman in Tiananmen Square, and she was like so thrilled with this selfie she was taking. She was skipping across Tiananmen Square. She was like so enraptured with the whole thing that was going on. And so, I have this huge archives of all these people doing this crazy shit while they're on their cell phones. And so she was the perfect person to put in there. Of course, none of them know their photos being taken. They could care less.
In Canada, you can't just take pictures of people on the street. You can't.
Well, I mean, every now and then someone catches wind that I'm doing it, and they're like, "Hey."
Do they think you're a cop?
Well,
or a pervert?
No, they're like, "You're invading my privacy."
But no,
What are you doing?
But if you're in a public place, isn't the rule or the law, whatever you can see with your eye, you can take a picture
So if
of?
some dude came up and creeped on you, you'd be like, well, the law says he can do this, and you wouldn't flip on him?
Well, if he upskirted me, he'd get a throat punch. But
Well, like, it depends where you are. Like, if I'm outdoors, like in the flower market, or if I'm outside in New York City, you can get away with a lot. But if I'm indoors, say like in Penn Station, I was trying to shoot some cops.
Ooh.
oh, double whammy, double
Bad
whammy.
move.
I'm trying to like shoot over there, so you'll see a picture in here.
Right away, they caught you. They knew you were taking their picture?
Well, you really have to be careful.
Wow.
When there's certain buildings you go into, I want to shoot the architecture, and immediately a guard comes running at you, and it's all about Homeland Security. What are you doing? What are you, people, it's gotten much tenser.
Wow.
Yeah.
Words I've learned since 9/11. What are you doing?
Pretty much. Homeland Security, all that.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so what are we looking at here?
Well, okay, there's a new project that we're launching as my new show at Coagula on October 1st. It's an internet project, words and text. It's a novella, a 20,000 word story with 21 original photographs called The 1% War.
The 1% War.
It's something new for me. I am a writer, for an arts writer, but this is my first piece of fiction. It's
Awesome.
a 20,000 word story about a civil war that takes place 6 years from now in the United States.
This is all predictive.
It's not really predictive, but it's based on things that have all happened somewhere else, and based on conditions that do currently exist in the United States, and I take them to a place where they could go.
So it's not quite allegory.
It's not allegory, it's based on things that have happened elsewhere, but also on things that are in place here, that if pushed further, could actually happen. But the essential part of it, or message about it, is if you live in a state of fear, if a country is in a state of fear and responds to fear, things could really get bad. So let's not go there. Let's not let it happen. That's the whole point of this sort of moral parable.
And so what's going on in this image?
Well, this is a chapter called the Central Park Massacre.
Okay.
And this boy is throwing a hand grenade
Yes.
at his family.
At his family?
and they're all killed, and it's caught on videotape. And in this chapter, this is a moment in time that's not unlike 9/11, where something so catastrophic psychologically happens to the nation, where an event happens where a little boy blows up his family, and it's discovered he's been looking at ISIS tapes, and this disaster is replayed over and over and over again on TV, and the nation just goes nuts. They become unhinged.
So are we going to be able to buy copies of your novel?
No, this is only to be seen online. It's a Coagula presentation.
So we can read the novel?
You can read the novel. It's in a virtual book format. You can read it on desktop, iPad, iPhone.
We can walk around like this in...
You can bookmark it, come back to it. Yeah, it's great, you know.
Great book! Oh, okay.
No, you actually, no, I tested it. It's a fabulous template.
Yeah? Okay.
So now this image is called, this is a chapter called Clean Hit on an Easy Target. And it's this story basically is the story of an artist who, in order to survive this civil war, because artists are being picked up and disappeared, like they were in Argentina and Chile,
or during the
or
Cultural
Iran.
Revolution in China.
In many places, becomes a war correspondent and becomes a totally amoral person in order to survive.
Amoral.
Amoral.
No morality.
No morality, doesn't
artist
care,
should be.
doesn't give a shit, just works for anybody. And these photos are his war correspondent photos.
Ah.
Many of them doctored to suit his clients, changes history to suit, you know, what they want.
So this is 2022. This is 6 years from now.
6 years from now, and this shot, he's out with an assassin, capturing what the assassin is doing.
And the assassins are hired by who?
Some militia, some police force.
This sounds like we're talking about some like mini-series that's going to be on like Netflix streaming. Is that the ultimate goal of this art show?
People have said this should be a screenplay. Anyway,
Nice.
so in this photo, the narrative that goes with it is the assassin is talking about how easy it is to kill people on these moving walkways in the airline terminals. And so it's this very kind of neutral, here's how I do it, here's how I go about it, here's how I make my money. He's telling this story to the war correspondent, who just very, matter-of-factly goes, yeah, that's how he does it. He's just sort of reporting back from the field. It's very neutral, dispassionate, it's very chilling. And so that's the image. This guy's about to take out his mark, and he's just, taking the photo. It's just his job.
Nice. So this premieres
October 1.
October 1st, online.
Online. You can find out on the Coagula website. There's going to be a social media push. And
the goal is to have this go viral because there's a strong feeling behind this, correct?
yeah, look, this is an election year where the country is filled with fear. This is partly a topical piece, but the conditions this novella and the images describe are going to exist after the election, no matter who's elected. Mm-hmm. And as a nation and as a people, we need to come to grips with it, and we can't act out of fear. We have to act out of compassion and reason and love, and we can't let this kind of shit happen. This is a very dystopian, dark piece, intentionally. It's as unfunny as Wild Kingdom was funny, but it's intentional because you know, it's a moral parable, much in the way William Hogarth or Goya or Daumier would pitch their stories to say, hey, this is a red flag. This is a warning, wake up.
Like, look at the world and the way it's going.
Yeah.
Do you think it's already written in stone? I mean, this is going to happen inevitably?
No.
No.
It's
No,
not
no,
predicted
otherwise I'd be, you know, heading for the hills. But, you know, this was a year in the making, and it started with that image of the boy throwing the hand grenade. And I hadn't written the story. I just made that image, and I was like, you know, where did this come from? Yeah. And then I realized what it was all about.
And you're not generally known as a fan of patricide, so
yeah, but it was like, I get it. I get what I need to do next as an artist. I need to take responsibility. A lot of my work has social commentary in it, and the next piece or project after Wild Kingdom was, if we're not engaging, what's the next way to talk about engaging? What's going on around us? And how do I, as someone who's done a lot of work that involves social commentary and done personally a lot of work around nonviolence philosophy, get engaged now as an artist and not do work that can just be dismissed as political artwork. So I wanted to find a series of metaphors, and I had never written a story before. So it was really fascinating to write a story.
And how long did it take you to write your novella?
It took over a year because I started by writing captions, and then it got longer, and then I realized it needed more. First, they were descriptions of the breakdown of culture. Then I realized there was a character in there. Sometimes I'd do the picture and I'd write for the picture. Sometimes I'd write a chapter, then I realized I needed an image for the chapter. It was a fascinating process. And then finally I started putting in more anecdotal stuff to flesh this guy out. And I realized, then I had some people read it and they said, you got something, man. You actually know how to write.
Uh-oh, I mean, all these years making art, you're a writer.
Well, you know, I thought I was like a half-assed writer for art magazines.
Oh, well,
I mean, you know,
that's every art magazine writer.
This gives me hope. This gives me hope.
But fiction was like, you know, so, you know, this was...
What's going on at Waffle House?
All right,
what's going on here?
Well, I'm going to read a little section.
Well, okay, we got 2 minutes. Come on.
Okay.
You gotta get the book out. Okay, yikes.
I'm going to read just a tiny...
Yikes, here we go.
Okay, here's a little preview. The first major anti-immigrant actions began with the rounding up of illegal aliens by dragging them from workplaces, homes, or anywhere they were found without papers. They were trucked to the regional internment centers established during the previous year's riots after the killing of former President Obama. From there, no matter what the nationality, they would be shipped south to the Mexican border and kicked across the Rio Grande through the hole in the wall.
This is pretty gruesome stuff, man.
I don't know, wow.
There were one of several processing ports where persons were hogtied by soldiers and tossed off a bridge onto conveyor belts that deposited them into a moving trough like bags of cement onto the Mexican side of the border. It was a brutal and intentionally humiliating action in which many people were badly injured or killed during their fall off the bridge. Mexican authorities and doctors stood helplessly and shouted in rage day after day as this barbarism took place. Thousands, then hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children of all ages were sent packing in this manner, and it was a disaster. Families were broken apart. People who were not illegal but were profiled were caught up in this dragnet because they happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, wait a minute. Why is this at a Waffle House?
You want me to get there, or am I running out of time?
Come on, get to the Waffle House, man. I'm hungry.
All right. By 2020, the wall on the southern border had been built, and the mass deportation of Mexican illegal workers was well underway. People began to fight back, and riots broke out, and a lot of police were injured and killed as well. And as a result, in 2022, the first shoot-to-kill orders were given for anyone resisting. In a now infamous event, even though it was later reported that the workers were not resisting and just asking questions, a heavily armed SWAT team lined them up in the parking lot and blew them the fuck away. It was later known as the Waffle House Massacre of Bradenton, Florida, and will live on in the annals of the struggle of the 99% as the one key incident that emboldened them throughout the war. And it was this photo that inflamed the nation and plunged it ever deeper into civil war.
Wow.
Wow.
So this massacre at the Waffle House is scheduled for 6 years from now.
Yeah.
But the show is scheduled October 1st.
Yeah, right. And it goes on to say, I know what happened because I'm the guy who took it. And, you know, and he's there on the scene, and you see his shadow.
Let's hope that the artists can elevate consciousness within humanity so that such gruesome things just stay in that imagination of yours and not manifested in the world around us.
When we have a presidential candidate talking about doing this shit,
well,
it's not that far away, man. So, I mean, you know, let's hope.
Let's hope for happier days ahead.
And we will see you next week at 5 o'clock.
Oh, wait a minute.
First, we have a happy note.
Zoom in on this. It is, oh, wait, here we go. Here we go. Clayton and his sketch by Intern Aliza. All right, so you've been watching Modern Art Blitz. We do this every Sunday at 5 p.m. Thanks to my co-hostess,
and our
Lisa Derrick, and
intern
Intern Aliza, and our guest Jon Measures and the great Clayton Campbell. We will see you next week live at 5 and archived on YouTube.